Hello, welcome to the Women Who STEM the Gap podcast, an IIT Delhi and Co-Impact initiative. I am Ridhima Sharma, and I'm excited to bring you the insights and experiences of some incredible women in STEM. In this episode, I will be speaking with Dr. Sangeeta Kohli, who is a professor of mechanical engineering at the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. You can learn more about her work in the description below. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak with us, Professor Kohli. It's really great to be talking to you. So, just to start off, I just wanted to learn a little bit more about your journey as the lone student in a mechanical engineering program in IIT over, I think, 40 years ago. 30.
Actually, as faculty, I think till about 5 years ago, I was only faculty and I joined in 99. So 24 years. So nearly 20 years. I've been the only lady faculty in mechanical engineering department. Now we have four, actually.
That's wonderful.
Three more have joined in the recent past. Yes, but if I look at my journey as a student, so something I would have never imagined in my school days. So I think, mm, give you the background about my family as well as my schooling, and things will be more in the context. The later experiences will um, get contextualized. So actually, I came from a very humble background in the sense that lower middle class almost at some stage. Gradually, the financial resources improved. But my father came from Pakistan and started from scratch in 47 and a big family. And so there was a lot of struggle. So when I went to school, after till fifth standard, I was in a co-education school, but that was where my elder brother also studied. But after fifth, I went to Lady Evans School, which is all girls school. And in my home also, like we were never very open about talking to boys, and so I was definitely quite reserved. Even in the co-education school, I don't remember having had friends with any boys. So we all girls used to play together till fifth standard also. And throughout my schooling, I don't remember having talked to even my brother's friends. So there was a lot of resistance about talking to boys. So when I came to 11th, I was not clear what I am going to do. And I had not heard about IIT either, because my family is actually family of doctors. Almost everybody senior to me, my father's younger sister, younger brother, many of them basically became doctors. Then my elder brother also became a doctor. Many of my cousins became doctors. So while one of my mamas had done engineering, but he did not pursue engineering as a profession, so there was no role model for me in my family who was an engineer. So not even among men. So forget about women being engineers. So both my parents came from humanities background. My mother was a Sanskrit teacher. My father was MA in English and political science. So their background was very different. Right. So what happened when I came to 11th, that was a time when one of my maths teachers in school told me that why don't you write IIT entrance exam, and I had not even heard about IIT. So, but one thing was clear to me when I was selecting my subjects in 11th class. I was very clear I didn't want to do biology. I didn't want to do medicine.
Right.
There was some inherent feeling that no, I never liked biology that much, and was not inclined to do medicine at all, but I didn't know what else to do. So only my teacher told me, why don't you try for engineering? I had no idea what engineering is all about. So that was the beginning. And it so happened that while I wrote IIT JEE exam in 11th also, that time we could write it, but I had no idea what was going on because there was no preparation. But 12th class, after 12th, I joined a coaching class. Also, a very humble coaching class. I remember my father could not afford very expensive coaching classes. So I just joined a correspondence course, which was known to be the best at that time. And we paid 425 rupees for the entire course in 1980, 81. So that much was comfortable. And fortunately for me, I got through JEE. And at the time of admission, at the time of counseling, when me and my father came, we had no idea how to fill our choices. So my father was very protective about me, and he said, I don't want you to go out of Delhi. So why don't you fill all the choices in Delhi? So I said, okay, Kanpur is close by. Suppose I don't get some choices in Delhi, maybe I'll fill up Kanpur as well. So that's how I filled some choices in Kanpur. And all the choices that we filled were in accordance with what some seniors there told us, some volunteers. We asked them, okay, how to fill choices? They said, okay, that time there was no computer science. First fill electrical, then mechanical, then this, then that. So that's how we just did it mechanically without knowing what all these branches are all about.
Right.
And so at that time, nobody told us that being a girl, whether some branch is good for you or not good for you. When later on I came to join, after I got mechanical in IIT Delhi and I came to join, that was a time when people raised eyebrows and you said, oh, you are the first girl in mechanical after 15 years.
Wow.
And my father, more than me, my father got worried. So I was from an all girls school. I had not been talking to boys, but somehow, and here also I was not really talking to boys, but I had a focus that I have to study in a good college and I have to do my job. That's it. Whether I'm going to be in all boys environment or all girls environment didn't seem to bother me and at that time I was not thinking about it at all. When I am reflecting on it as a hindsight, I wonder how come it happened. But that's the way it happened. And so that time somebody told, oh, branch change is also possible after first year. So my father was reassured that, okay, maybe she can try for branch change. So that's how I got into mechanical. And it so happened that my father again got second thoughts about my joining IIT because hostel was compulsory.
Right.
He was not comfortable about me staying away from home. So he said, why don't you join Delhi College of Engineering? At least you can commute from home. So that time I was very surprised. My mother did not know much about IIT, but my elder brother told her that IIT is a very reputed place.
Right.
And then my mother convinced my father that no, people get admission with such great difficulty in IIT, and now that she's got it, you should not give her another choice. I think it's better that she joins there. So that's how my father agreed. So I was into IIT. Being in the first year, it doesn't really matter that you are the only girl because finally you join, you are in common classes.
Right.
There were some classes in which only mechanical students were doing those courses. So I used to be alone in those classes. And even later on, so what happened after first year, I did not get a branch change despite having a good score because it was a very peculiar situation at the time. I was in the first 4-year engineering batch. The batch before me was 5-year, had the 5-year engineering course, BTech course. So we would have had in 1985, we had 2 batches passing out together. So double the number of students passing out.
Hmm.
So they gave a lot of branch change to electrical in a previous batch. So they did not allow any branch change in our batch. And this is something which I share with many people as a, this is almost hilarious for me also. That then one of my uh, batchmates got to know that even I did not get branch change to electrical. He came and asked me, why don't you go and fight for it on humanitarian grounds? That being in mechanical, how can you do, being a girl, how can you do mechanical? So I still remember my reaction. It is more than 40 years ago, but I
Right.
still distinctly remember my reaction. I got so upset with his comment. I said, how are you talking like that? I have done all my courses along with others, workshop also I have done, and I think I can do it. There is no problem. So that was the end of people raising eyebrows, and there was no questions asked.
So let me just ask you, what were some of the specific like challenges or barriers that you face? Like, ek to, there is this anecdote that people thinking that, being a girl, how can you be in mechanical engineering? Through the years, can you think of like one or two like major barriers or challenges that you faced? And what were the strategies that you used? Or, obviously one of which is like simple resolve that I can and I will do it. But can you think of some such examples?
Actually, if I think about it, there were not too many challenges, frankly speaking.
Hmm.
It was quite a smooth sail throughout. The only time when I had a problem and I anyway had to take it in my stride was when I applied for, when I was trying to appear for an interview for internship. Because we
Okay.
were allowed one interview uh, for internship after a third year. And I wanted to go to one of the reputed engineering companies. I would not name it now. And when I went for their this one, they had a pre-placement talk, talk for internships. So I was sitting there, and one person spotted me. I was the only female sitting in the whole gathering. He spotted me and he said, "Oh, I see a young lady sitting there, and I want to inform that as a policy, a company does not take girls, even for internships."
Wow.
And that was a time when I got so furious. I was so upset. I still remember, that time. And but that, I was not the only one. Some of my seniors in chemical engineering had faced a problem, not in mechanics, chemical engineering. So I knew that these kinds of problems are coming, these challenges are coming. So, but I then wanted to get another chance for interview in another company. So I went to our training and placement cell and I said, this is not done. First of all, you should tell the company how can they do it? How can they discriminate? But they were not very supportive at that point of time. And they did not even allow me another interview. So finally, I got my internship based on my class rank. So it was not based on my interview. So this was one of the challenges I faced. But I would say I'm not able to think of anything else. And during all my workshop courses, I used to have one problem, or I should say two problems I used to have whenever I did workshop courses. One was that I could never tighten nuts and bolts as much as they should be tightened. So that power I did not have. So I had to request somebody to tighten them beyond what I could do. And secondly, when we were doing forging, in forging, it's a blacksmithy where you heat a workpiece and you hold. One person has to hold the workpiece and the other has to hammer it. And there, whenever I would hold the workpiece, my strength would not be strong enough for the workpiece to stay there. It would tend to fly off. So it would be dangerous. But I used to do the hammering well. But my only consolation was that I was probably doing it better than many of the boys. Many boys also had this problem. They could not hold the tongs and they could not hold the workpiece.
So it was not like in that way, not just like a problem because you were a girl. You were like, okay, there were other people who were
Yes, yes.
having having that issue.
But I'm really not able to think of any other problem which I faced during
Even
the 4 years.
and even like when you joined as a faculty member, you were you the first woman faculty member as well in mechanical engineering?
Yes, I was.
So what was that like initially? Like you said, about 5 years ago, your streak, your monopoly was broken, being the only woman faculty. What was that experience like? And did you see more girls joining in mechanical departments and
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It was actually, I could not feel any difference because of my presence. I don't think any specific change was perceptible. But one thing which I did experience was that I was not getting students to work with me for quite some time. Now, there could be a couple of reasons for that. Because I work in a slightly offbeat area, which is not very glamorous. I work more on rural technologies. And now, still, people are coming forward and people want to work in rural technologies. But when I joined 20 years back, more than 20 years back, 24 years back, it was still, people were more fascinated with, cutting edge technologies. And I had made a very conscious decision that what kind of work I want to do, which is more relevant to our country and so that I can give back to society. So, but students were not joining me, whether they were not joining me because I was working in an offbeat area or whether because I was a woman. It's not very clear, but probably it was a combination.
right?
But once somebody started, then I think I had a constant flow. So also, I think sometimes it doesn't happen only with females, but it also happens with other colleagues. That if you don't have students initially, many a times if you are not working in a glamorous area, then people hesitate to join you. So it takes some time before you can get a chain of students. So that challenge I had a little bit. But I would say beyond that, I am not able to think
So
of anything else in either in meetings or anything that anybody discriminated against me or I never felt.
So not having students initially, did you take that in your stride as well? That no, I'm going to continue working, in the areas that I'm passionate about, and students will come
Yeah, yeah, I
eventually.
have not changed my area. I have not changed my area ever since. And one thing definitely was there that at that time, okay, this year I have not got a student, maybe next year I'll get. So once a student joined, and then as many others also used to experience, he had some other plans and he left within a few months. So a couple of times it happened like that. But I was sort of feeling that, okay, not right now, maybe tomorrow, maybe tomorrow. And I was working in projects in larger teams. In fact, I have not had projects which I wrote myself and was a PI. I prefer to work in larger teams in projects which were more socially relevant. So I used to spend most of the time as part of those projects.
I see.
Gradually, I started getting students.
So, is there somebody, a key experience or an individual who you can think of who influenced your journey, like of the last 30 or 40 years from being a student to being a faculty member? Is there somebody or some experience that has really driven you or has inspired you to continue to do the work that you do?
Many people. In fact, I've had many mentors. So when I was a student here, my BTech project itself was on rural technology. So my professor, Professor PL Dhar, in fact, when he retired, he used to sit in this room where I'm sitting right now. So he was a great inspiration for me, and he encouraged me a lot. And even at home, I always got a lot of encouragement in whatever I did. My mother gave me a lot of freedom. My father passed away when I was in third year, but despite my father not being there, my mother never, she gave me advice, but if I didn't want to take it, she was okay with it. She gave me a lot of freedom. So I would say that that has been very helpful for me. And otherwise, I was extremely fortunate to have a great mentor in my Professor PL Dhar, who was my BTech project advisor. And later on, he has mentored me, continues to mentor me even now. And later on, when I went to do my PhD supervisor was also very, very inspiring. So even the kind of work that he used to do. So among women also, I've had people who were I was very inspired by. So when I finished my BTech, I joined Bharat Electronics Limited. I worked there for only 1 year, and I was not too comfortable in continuing there. So then I joined this organization called Terry. Now, at that time in 86, I joined the organization in 86. It was called Tata Energy Research Institute. Now it is called the Energy and Resources Institute. The expansion has changed. So there I used to have one of my seniors, Dr. Veena Joshi, who is very, very impressive person. She and her husband, both of them were there in Terry, and the kind of independence of thought and action that I saw in her and conviction, very, very inspiring. So she was another person who I've been very inspired. And then she was also working on rural areas, rural technologies. So it encouraged me to take that up for in the long run.
Right. So, in all of these years, can you think of maybe, one or two strategies that perhaps, you got from your mentors or that you developed on your own over the years to help you sustain and further your career? I mean, you've had a very inspiring career. You've written some exciting papers. You've worked on a lot of projects. What would you say have been a couple of strategies that have helped you sustain and advance your career?
Frankly speaking, I'm a very non-strategic person. So the word strategy doesn't come to me naturally at all. It's just that given a situation, whatever gut feeling I get, whatever comes from within, that is what I do. So okay. Sometimes you learn some things. For example, if your paper gets rejected, you learn that okay, you should learn how to write its title more attractively. Those are the kind of small strategies that one learns. But otherwise, in my life's challenges, I don't think I think in terms of strategizing. That word is not very that doesn't so that approach doesn't come naturally to me. So it's just the gut feeling. If whenever I face a problem, I reflect on it, try to go deeper that okay, what is it that one can do? And it's basically something which I would say uh, if one gets an inspiration, that's also a gift of nature. If at a given moment I'm getting an inspiration, I'm grateful that I'm getting that inspiration. I cannot boast that, oh, this is what I did. Because there was also a possibility that I did not get that inspiration.
Right.
Because not everybody gets that inspiration. So that inspiration is also natural and it's a gift of nature. So I'm grateful for that.
That's
So
much.
generally the approach is if there is a problem, let us solve it. That is the one line approach which I would like to call rather than a strategy.
That's wonderfully put. And just coming again to the question of, since we've been talking about your experiences being the lone faculty or lone student, what are some of the questions perhaps that you might have gotten from students, perhaps from like girls or women who want to pursue, a career in, say, mechanical engineering? And what is perhaps one piece of advice that you would want to share with girls today who want to pursue this field?
So, looking at the kind of thinking people have in today's context, when I look at girls also, I've spoken to some girls who have been my advisors recently from mechanical engineering itself. I find that some of them get driven by the general environment, and they forget that finally we have to be ourselves. We are not here to follow just what everybody else is doing. Unfortunately, everybody seems to be in that rat race kind of a thing. And
Right.
one thing which I very consciously decided in all the decisions that I took at various junctures in my life, it was never a decision that I was taking because everybody else was doing it, I should also do it. I had to think about it. Is it something which sounds right to me? Is it commensurate with my temperament, with my goals of life, with my comfort level? In my time, almost, there are so many people who were writing GRE and wanting to go abroad. I was very clear I don't want to go abroad. I never wrote GRE, even though I have my extended family in the US, and they kept saying, "Why don't you come here?" My elder brothers used to say, "I want to go. Why don't you also try?" I said, "No, I don't want to go." I was absolutely clear about it. So I think it's important for us to keep looking within and get clarity from within rather than trying to get clarity from outside. So that will not be a decision of ours, that will be somebody else's decision. And then we will not be able to stand by it in the long run.
No, that's absolutely wonderful. And especially today when we see there is so much competition, even from like a very young age, these are the things that are very important to keep in mind. So again, like coming to current scenarios where, you see digital media being such an intrinsic part of our lives, in terms of, say, thinking of mentoring, what role do you think digital mentorship can play in, say, improving perceptions or participation of girls in STEM fields?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Basically, I think somewhere there is a lack of the right kind of exposure. In fact, in today's generation of students, there is a very strong disconnect with people at the faculty level. And I would say that maybe that gap can be bridged through digital media. Because in person, many times we find faculty members don't have that much time.
Right.
Students are busy in their own world. But because students have the tendency to, they are more, used to going to the digital media for a lot of information that they are seeking and getting more clarity, having at least it's very important that they get the right kind of exposure and different perspectives should be available to them. Otherwise, what happens, that they are able to talk to only their peers and they get only one kind of perspective. And if you see also in particularly social media, there's only one kind of perspective it gets promoted. But if you can have podcasts of the kind where uh, people who have taken a different line in their life, chosen a different path, different from what is considered to be the cool thing,
Right.
people may start taking them more seriously.
Thank you for sharing that. So, just like my final question, at this stage in your career, in, as a faculty member, as a researcher, what are your goals and aspirations? I know that's a very big question, but
Actually, I am already 60, so I'll be retiring in a few years. So I would say that my goals continue to be what they were several years back. It is, I would like to contribute to the society as an engineer to the extent possible. And I would say that so far, whatever work I have been able to do as part of several teams, I think that has helped us to make do some preparatory work, and maybe one can make a better impact with some useful technologies and also connecting to the people.
Right.
So there are two things which I feel are very important. One is that when we are talking about in today's world, when we are talking about sustainability, it is a matter of great concern for me that the word sustainability has become a buzzword, but in the name of it, there's a lot of washing that is happening. We are not really doing justice to the basic idea of sustainability. So I really wish that as somebody who really believes in that concept and who feels that unless our society genuinely moves towards sustainable technologies, sustainable systems at large, it's going to be very, very difficult for people to, continue the way they are in this planet. We have to change our ways. So I am very keen that I should contribute towards that.
Wonderful.
Sustainability also has several facets. So I would like to contribute to whatever facets is possible.
Wonderful. And just like one more question, sorry, I said last question, but one more question. Looking back now at your journey, are you doing right now what you always wanted to do? Like, would you change anything, or do you think like, yes, I have chosen the path that I wanted to be on?
Yeah, I had definitely chosen the path that I wanted to be on, and I got clarity about this several years after I finished my graduation. It did not come overnight, but of course. So this is one thing which I actually wanted to tell the youngsters when. So maybe I'm going back to your earlier question. So many times students say that we don't have clarity, we don't know what to do. So how should we get clarity? So I have only one message there, something that I have followed myself, that the best way to get clarity in life is to make the best of the opportunity that you have at hand. So when I joined Bharat Electronics Limited, I did my best. I gave it my best shot. And despite that, when I started realizing that no, this is not the place for me, I could take a decision that no, I should move on. So unless you give the best shot, the best of your efforts to whatever you have at hand, you will not be able to get clarity. And when you do that, then there is no going back. So every time I have taken a decision, it is because I was able to decide based on the past experience, okay, I've given my best to this, now it's time to move on. So now also I would say that that's the way I've chosen my path. And from that perspective, my goals are definitely what I started with. But yes, of course, life is always a learning experience. Some things you do differently as you learn things better. So I cannot say that I'll do everything exactly the same way as I did if I were to go back in time. But I think that's not even important, because we don't always have to do everything in the perfect way. We are all learners along the journey. And whatever course of action we choose, that becomes our learning experience. And that shows us the way forward.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sangeeta Kohli, for joining us and sharing your journey, sharing your thoughts, your experiences.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. At STEM the Gap, our goal is to bridge the gender imbalances in STEM through multidisciplinary research, policy, and practice. If you enjoyed listening to this conversation, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel and stay connected with us through our website and social media pages. Links in description.